Inside the Magic, show number 395 for October 28th, 2012.
Hello, creeps. It's me, John Kassir, the voice of the Cryptkeeper. And this is InsideTheMagic.net.
It is Sunday, October 28th, 2012, and this is show 395 of Inside the Magic. As always, I'm your host, Ricky Briganti. As the Cryptkeeper told you there, it is indeed Halloween time, and it is Inside the Magic, of course, and it is our Halloween show this week. Doing things a little bit differently this year. Not going to feature Mark and Jay like we have in past years. Not going to have any kind of clever, silly little skits or anything like that, but we are going to have some really interesting sort of Halloween-related fun here on the show, so stay tuned for that, and of course all the usual stuff as well. And before we get to all of it, I invite you to visit InsideTheMagic.net. There you'll find all of our podcasts, videos, photos, news, articles, and plenty more. And if you ever have any news, tips, questions, comments, anything else you want to send in, you can write to me at ricky@InsideTheMagic.net, or you can leave a message at 407-494-4ITM. That's 4486. And now, let's get on with the show. And this week's episode of Inside the Magic is brought to you by Magical Travel. You can give the gift of a Disney vacation for the holidays. Walt Disney World room discounts are available for holiday travel and winter getaways, so you're going to want to call Magical Travel today at 866-207-8387 or visit them online at magicaltravel.com to receive a free price quote, and be sure to mention Inside the Magic when you do give them a call to receive a free Disney gift card for qualifying bookings when you book your Disney vacation with Magical Travel. And of course, thank you very much to listeners and viewers like you, and especially this week to Tracy Brown and David Ross. Thanks very much for your donations, and of course all of our monthly recurring donation subscribers and anybody who clicks through any of those affiliate links over on our website. It all supports Inside the Magic, of course, and I thank you very much for all of that. And now let's get started with a trip around the world. So the news this week has very little, if anything at all, to do with Halloween or spooky topics, but certainly important still to share all of it. And then once we get through the news and the usual sort of Inside the Magic stuff that we do every week, then I will be sharing some special Halloween fun for you as well. So news first, and first thing is New Fantasyland, of course. New Fantasyland is the big story that's going around right now in the world of Disney. Of course, out here at Walt Disney World, it is the big expansion of the Magic Kingdom, and it is gearing up during previews and, slowly inching its way toward the grand opening, well, in early December. But there are many ways to see it in advance, and Walt Disney World this week released additional dates and details regarding annual pass holder previews of New Fantasyland following a rather problematic first round of registration. We'll be talking about the last couple of weeks. There were some pretty major issues when it came to going online and signing up for those pass holder previews. So now Disney has switched the format of signing up to kind of a sweepstakes of sorts. Basically, you get to pick up to 36 available 3.5-hour time slots over on the pass holder website, and from whatever you choose as when you'll be available to attend the previews as an annual pass holder, Disney will then select one of those for you based on availability and random selection and all of that kind of thing. The dates and times that they've selected begin November 6th, continuing through November 16th on select days, not every single one of those days. I think it's 11 11 different dates. And they start as early as 8 a.m. and last until as late as 1 a.m., which I found to be really exciting. I definitely signed up for, or hopefully signed up for, some of those late night hours, and we'll see. Disney will be notifying people in a few days. You have a couple of more days, I think, until Halloween to sign up and head over to the pass holder section of the Walt Disney World website, and after that they'll be notified and let everybody know what slot you will to quote-unquote preview New Fantasyland. Of course, the past few days have been cast member previews of New Fantasyland. Guests going to the park have not been able to go in there, and I don't know how it's going to work moving forward until the pass holder previews start a few days from now. They may still let some guests in the park. You might get lucky if you're there, or you may not. They may leave it closed up. So hard to say at this point, but it's definitely moving closer and closer to that November 19th date, which is when every guest in the Magic Kingdom will be able to enjoy New Fantasyland as part of the sort of general preview phase, and then the grand opening press events, of course, will be on December 5th and 6th, and after that is when it will officially be open. A little bit more about New Fantasyland. Of course, during all of this cast member testing over the last few days, Disney used it as an opportunity to test some of the food service at the Be Our Guest restaurant. A lot of high praise for much of the food, particularly the French onion soup. I've seen a lot of people say it's absolutely delicious there. I unfortunately haven't had a chance to try any of it quite yet. But what I really found interesting was sort of a new detail that came out of this testing, particularly for lunch service, and that's what they have been testing. Lunchtime at Be Our Guest is definitely a unique situation, different than really anything else Disney has tried before, because the restaurant changes. For lunchtime, it's at counter service, kind of, whereas at dinner time, it is table service. And, during lunch, basically you enter the restaurant and you are given sort of this little plastic rose. And it's got a little Mickey head on the side, very similar to those RFID Mickey heads that have been used in the Fast Pass Plus testing. And you take that rose, you kind of work your way through the kiosks and through the ordering process, and somehow the rose knows what you ordered from there. And then you take the rose with you and sit down wherever you want in the restaurant, and you place it on your table. And it sort of registers with that table, and then the server is able to find you when you actually get served. And while you wait for that to happen, you can go get your own drinks and silverware and all of that kind of thing. There's self-service drinks in the restaurant, and then you'll be served. So it's kind of this mishmash of table service and counter service and kiosks and all that. So something new, something unique. Definitely sounds interesting. I'm looking forward to trying that for myself. Something else happened this week in New Fantasyland over at the Under the Sea Journey of the Little Mermaid attraction, of course, the Little Mermaid ride. And that site where that ride is the former location of the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea ride many years ago, which I definitely miss quite a bit. And so this week, Disney revealed that apparently for all these years since the attraction closed, they've kept some vials, some bottles of the water from the 20,000 Leagues Lagoon labeled and tucked away somewhere for some use in the future. Well, they used them this week, according to them, and they took them over to the Little Mermaid attraction and dumped that water into sort of the streams and the waterfalls and all of that surround the Little Mermaid ride, sort of combining the past with the present as a tribute. So a nice little tribute there. Of course, there's also a Nautilus carved into the rockwork outside the attraction, and a whale of a tale, a song from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea plays in the queue music that is around that ride. So some good tributes to the old, much missed 20,000 Leagues. So here's some interesting quote-unquote news, and no one's really entirely sure what to make of this quite yet, whether or not it's true or if it's just something that someone made up, or who knows. It seems sort of maybe legitimate. Well, I'm talking about some quote-unquote leaked plans for attractions planned for the Avatar area of Disney's Animal Kingdom that basically nobody knows much about at this point. Well, these blueprints are circulating online showing a couple of different attractions and some areas that people are saying, well, this looks like it probably is Avatar related. So what everyone's talking about is a particular drawing that shows basically four large screens, similar to Soarin' or Soarin' over California, depending on which coast you're projector on, and those screens have some sort of motion bases in front of them, it seems like, some sort of theater environment. So that could be a Soarin'-style attraction, maybe more advanced, maybe 3D, who knows, probably 3D, knowing James Cameron, if this is indeed Avatar-related at all. And then next to that are also some plans for what appears to be a boat ride of sorts. Again, no real specifics, no labels, no nothing really on these plans, but it's one of those things that, you know, the new Fantasyland plans leaked before they announced them, just a couple of weeks before they announced them, and they were very, very accurate. But who knows at this point whether or not this could just be, you know, a very early sort of rendition of what they might be thinking for Avatar, and whether or not it's true or not. But they're out there if you want to search for them. Of course, those of you watching the video version, you were looking at them a little bit, not too descriptive, but it's interesting that maybe that is what they are looking at. And just a couple of days ago out at Disneyland, and starting today over at Walt Disney World at Disney's Hollywood Studios, the beginning of the meet and greets with Wreck-It Ralph and Vanellope von Schweetz, of course, from the film Wreck-It Ralph, which we talked about last week. Great film. Definitely enjoyed it. Haven't had a chance to go over to Hollywood Studios yet to see the pair, but they are out there, and the Wreck-It Ralph costume is ginormous with big hands, of course, also a big head and a big body and big everything, whereas Vanellope is small and cute and has candy in her hair and everything that she should be as Vanellope von Schweetz. So you want to meet them, Hollywood Studios or Tomorrowland out at Disneyland. A program was discontinued this week at Walt Disney World. It is the ability to get a personalized watch from Disney's Artisan Watch program. It was discontinued as of October 27th. These are the sort of watches that you'd be able to customize, that you'd be able to get your own writing on. You pick out the artwork, and they do something just for you, and then they put it in a watch. You can't do that anymore. Of course, the watch programs will still be available with limited edition watches, sort of artwork that comes and goes over the years, but you can no longer personalize them. And Walt Disney World shared some details and some new photos this week regarding Splitsville, which is going to be opening up, December-ish or so, over at Downtown Disney out here in Orlando. And they showed off some photos of what the food is going to look like there. Of course, there are other Splitsville locations in the country, so anybody who's ever been to one of those, including the one over in Tampa, would get an idea of the food that's going to be there, the menus online, et cetera, et cetera. No real shocker there. It definitely looks like a bunch of greasy yet tasty food. And then the new detail that I read, at least, that the operating hours of Splitsville were announced to be 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. every day. So that's pretty good. If you're going to be able to get food at Walt Disney World as late as 2 a.m. or leading up till 2 a.m., that's definitely excellent opportunity for those who go to the parks, even extra magic hours. You don't want to just have McDonald's every night afterwards, so you can head to Downtown Disney, grab a bite to eat, maybe do some bowling, play some games, have some fun, socialize, etc. at Splitsville, coming relatively soon. Now, of course, as I've said, we're talking Halloween this week, and I should mention several new articles that I've posted over on InsideTheMagic.net that have related to things I've talked about here on the show recently, and as well as some other things as well. If you enjoyed my report about Halloween time on last week's show from Disneyland, you can follow that up with even more over on the website. I've got lots of photos and I think 5 or 6 new videos that I posted, so just look for one ginormous Halloween time kind of wrap-up article over there. In addition, for those of you who are fans of Halloween Horror Nights over at Universal Orlando, I posted a couple of new things from there. One is a look at Halloween Horror Nights during the daytime hours, which is always an interesting sight. The hours that sort of lead up, it usually starts at 6:30 p.m., which of course is not dark yet. It takes about another hour for it to get dark, so it's interesting to see the characters all roaming the streets during the day, particularly the vampires, who I wouldn't think would be out during the day, but apparently they are daywalking vampires. That that aside, I also posted an article about 2 new street groups that have been added to the Horror Nights event as an attempt by Universal to sort of fill up the streets a little bit more with the new park-wide street experiences this year. The new Dark Legions are a group of fast-moving zombies, not to be confused with the slower-moving walkers from The Walking Dead, as well as a group of sort of trick-or-treaters, kind of, sort of, maybe, with clear masks and sort of random costumes. Not necessarily a fan of these new groups, but they are some high energy, got some good actors in there. So if you want to see some video and some photos of all of that, head on over to the website. Speaking of Universal Orlando, coming up in just a few days on Thursday, November 1st, the day after Halloween, the day after the last Halloween Horror Nights, Universal Orlando has announced that they're going to announce a big announcement. Apparently anybody who is in Universal Studios Florida will be able to see this announcement anywhere around the lagoon, they've said, which I'm going to guess that means they're going to use the cinematic spectacular lagoon show infrastructure, the big water screens, to make that big announcement, and it's going to happen at roughly 7 p.m., again on November 1st, and all signs seem to point to the fact that it's going to be Transformers that they're going to be announcing. Of course, we don't know that 100%, but it's like 99.8% sure that's I mean, they may announce something else in addition to that, who knows, we'll see, but likely that's what it's going to be. So come back in a few days, head on over to the website or just listen to next week's show, and we'll have an update on whatever this big announcement Universal has. And let's see, another park in Central Florida is working on something else for the near future that is both big and small at the same time. Talking about Legoland, Florida, where this week they released some photos and video of the new Star Wars models, Lego models, showing up for the new Miniland cluster that'll debut on November 9th, not too long from now. If you want to see those Star Wars models heading into the park, head on over to InsideTheMagic.net. And let's see, let's hop over onto SeaWorld now, where they've been releasing some new videos of sort of hinting at the Antarctica realm that they're working on over there, as well as the Empire of the Penguin attraction. It seems like some pretty exciting stuff that SeaWorld is working on. And in the latest video, Behind the Freeze, the episode of that they released, they showed a quick glimpse of what the trackless ride vehicle is going to look like. Of course, there has already been concept art and that sort of thing been released there, but it should be an interesting sort of new addition to the Orlando theme park scape, if you will. Of course, Disney has used trackless vehicles in the past in other parks elsewhere, like Winnie the Pooh's Honey Hunt overseas, but nothing here in Orlando, so I think SeaWorld's going to get a first for that. In addition, that Empire of the Penguin attraction is supposed to be the world's coldest ride, which should be interesting as well, so we'll stay on top of that. As I've said in a recent show, they're going to be announcing more about that attraction at the upcoming IAPA amusement park show here in Orlando in a couple of weeks. One more bit of non-Disney news here, actually out at Universal Studios Hollywood, where the rumors continue to they seem to be solidified for the addition of the Despicable Me Minion Mayhem attraction to there. A listener, let's see, John, sent me a photo of comparing basically the existing facade for Despicable Me, the Gru's house facade that's out here in Orlando, to some construction area that he spotted out at Universal Studios Hollywood that had very similar roof tiles being built sort of near the Transformers attraction. Not that they're going to be installed there, but that's where they were located when he spotted them. So it definitely seems highly, highly likely that Despicable Me is probably going to be replacing Terminator 2 out in Hollywood. So now back to the world of Disney, though away from the theme parks. Saving Mr. Banks is in production right now. This is the film in which Tom Hanks is playing Walt Disney, and it's going to be surrounding the sort of time period, the story of Walt Disney acquiring the rights to the Mary Poppins story from its author, and how that happened, and sort of the craziness around that, and ultimately, obviously, Disney succeeded. Mary Poppins was very popular, but it was definitely a fight to get all of that. Well, I bring all of that up because Justin emailed over a pretty interesting photo from, actually, it's a screen grab from Saturday Night Live in which Tom Hanks was there, and he was introducing Bruno Mars as the musical act. And when he did that, of course, he was sporting his Walt Disney mustache, and he used the two-finger point when pointing over there. And really, if you think about it, Tom Hanks looked a whole lot like Walt Disney when he's in the partner statue, kind of with his right hand extended, pointing off to the distance. I have to imagine Hanks did that on purpose. Of course, everybody's been talking about him playing Walt Disney. First time Walt Disney has been represented in a big film on the big screen, so a pretty amusing moment there. I think Tom Hanks, I'm sure, is enjoying embodying this role, and hopefully it'll be good. They're supposed to be filming at Disneyland, actually, on November 6th and 7th. They're going to be closing off areas of the park. So if you're at Disneyland on those dates and you happen to see them filming, that should be one of those sort of historic moments, having somebody playing Walt Disney at Disneyland. Not sure that's ever happened before. And continuing in the world of movies, the first trailer for Iron Man 3 came out this week. Of course, that's from Marvel, owned by Disney. I have it up on our YouTube channel over at youtube.com/InsideTheMagic if you haven't seen it yet. Good trailer. Looks like another excellent addition to the ongoing Iron Man / Avengers, Chronicles, or whatever you want to call it. So go check that out. And new to Blu-ray, recently released, is the 1977 Disney film, Pete's Dragon. This is a combination of live action and animation, of course, featuring the famous Elliot the Dragon, most famous, in my opinion, from the Main Street Electrical Parade. And really, I like Elliot in the parade better. Not a big fan of Pete's Dragon. I did watch it this past week, just a few days ago. It was a tough one to get through. It's a long movie, lots of songs that probably don't need to be in there anyway. You can head on over to InsideTheMagic.net to read my full review of not only Pete's Dragon, the film, but also the Blu-ray release. And Wreck-It Ralph coming out very soon. Of course, we talked about that last week and continuing this week. Well, over on our YouTube channel, again, I posted the 3 really fun commercials that Disney created and released in promotion of Wreck-It Ralph. They're from basically promoting Litwack's Arcade, which is the arcade in which some of the Wreck-It Ralph movie is set. And the commercials that they've released are as if they're commercials for the arcade in the 1980s and the 90s and then the 2000s, promoting different games. Of course, promoting Fix-It Felix Jr. back in the 80s, promoting Sugar Rush, the kart racing game from the 90s, and then promoting Hero's Duty, the first-person sort of shooter in the 2000s. Great, fun little sort of moments there, these fake retro commercials. Definitely head on over to our YouTube channel to watch those. And speaking of games, Disney, owner of Playdom, they acquired them, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago. They make Facebook games. Well, there's one called Gardens of Time. Many of you may be playing it on Facebook. Apparently it's very popular. I have never played it. But in time for Halloween, the game is receiving a Haunted Mansion makeover, along with some hitchhiking ghosts that you can somehow pick up or purchase or win or something like that. So if you play that game, definitely be on the lookout for some Haunted Mansion stuff. And a week or two ago, I mentioned that the Rose Parade this year was going to feature a float from Disney, inspired by Cars Land. Well, Disney this week offered a glimpse at some concept art showing off just what that Cars float is going to look like. And it looks pretty massive. The 124th Rose Parade in Pasadena is going to be on January 1st, as it always is, 2013. The parade theme this year is Oh, the Places You'll Go. And on this Cars Land-inspired float will be Lightning McQueen, Sally, Luigi, Guido, Ornament Valley, Radiator Springs Racers, the Cozy Cone Motel, and more. And there'll be plenty of animation on there, as well as including a bouncing tire from Luigi's Flying Tires, a bubbling original Radiator Springs, some real waterfalls, smoke puffing baby tractors, and plenty more. Of course, you can see the parade in person if you are in Pasadena, or live on ABC if you are not in Pasadena, which most people are not. I'm not. Anyway, so there's that. Final bit of news this week is kind of an update on what I spoke about last week here on the show, which was I've got this ongoing sort of bizarre Haunted Mansion ghost story thing that just to keep it short here, a couple of weeks ago I posted on Twitter and Facebook and I said, hey, has anybody ever seen any real ghosts in the Haunted Mansion? Just curious, thinking about Halloween, all that kind of thing. And a surprising number of people responded and said, here's a ghost story, here's another ghost story. And then I received this bizarre email from a cast member and I got creeped out by what they were sending over. And unfortunately, I know I promised last week that this past Monday I was going to have some video to share from about this ghost in the mansion or something, and I haven't gotten it yet, but I've been promised, I swear, that it's this coming Monday. October 29th. So check over on InsideTheMagic.net. It is coming. I promise. I've seen snippets of it, and they keep dragging me on. And anyway, it's coming. It'll be worth the wait, I think. I hope. I wouldn't be talking about it this much if it wasn't. So, there it is. InsideTheMagic.net is where you're going to want to check for that Monday afternoon, if all goes to plan, hopefully. So there it is, my latest update on that. And this better happen before Halloween, because after Halloween, who cares about ghosts anyway? You'll be thinking about turkey and all of that. So anyway, that's it for your news from around the world this week. And this week's tip has absolutely nothing to do with Halloween, but it's still a very good tip from Nikki, who writes, Single rider is a very helpful alternative to waiting in line for rides, which tend to have a long wait time, hence the name single rider. Guests who wait in the single rider line will be traveling in a party will be split up, but if you don't mind being separated from your party, you'll be able to ride sooner because the single rider line tends to go much quicker. Some rides include Radiator Springs Racers, very important there, Matterhorn, Splash Mountain, Grizzly River Run, and California Scream. And of course, those are all Disneyland attractions, but you'll find single rider lines all over the place. And to add my own thoughts to this, and this is the reason I wanted to include it this week, of course, a couple of weeks ago I was at Disneyland, and my wife Michelle and I decided to go for Radiator Springs Racers. Single rider line, didn't want to wait in like the 2-hour line that was there because single riders was only maybe half an hour, 45 minutes tops. And here was the fun part. We ended up being side by side racing through the attraction just by coincidence. Of course, there's no guarantee of that. She got loaded in one car, I got loaded in another car, and then we raced through against each other, which in my opinion is even more fun than sitting next to each other, because you have that sort of competition. You can yell at each other and all of that, and even snap away some photos of each other in the vehicle. So that is a lot of fun. Another advantage to doing single rider line on that particular attraction, other than just kind of skipping the excessively long waits. But it applies to Walt Disney World as well. Disneyland and Walt Disney World. It is a good way to go if you don't mind riding alone occasionally. So there it is. Everyone else out there, email your tips into tips@InsideTheMagic.net. And now I did promise plenty of Halloween, but before we get to that, I've got one more thing that I absolutely have to do. Yep, it's time for that old Inside the Magic dance break once again. And of course, playing Little Mermaid because it is New Fantasyland, Little Mermaid ride and all of that. But more importantly, this is actually a very special week because the #1 dance game brand, Just Dance, has met the magical world of Disney with the newest and coolest video game for the whole family called Just Dance Disney Party. And this week, the game is out. It's in stores for Kinect, Xbox 360, also for Nintendo Wii, and it is $29.99. You can dance along to classic movies like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Jungle Book, Cinderella, a bunch of stuff from the Disney Channel as well. Just Dance Disney Party is a great way to keep the family active, so go get it. It's available at all major retailers. Back to the music. And now it is time to get a little spooky for some Halloween fun. You might recognize that theme song, particularly combined with the voice from the top of this show. I had a chance this weekend to head over to Spooky Empire's Ultimate Horror Weekend here in Orlando, where lots of horror celebrities all gathered together for an exciting convention that happens every year. And this year, one of the celebrity guests was the man you heard at the top of the show, John Kassir, the voice of the Cryptkeeper, who actually has some theme park ties, believe it or not. Not necessarily Disney, but they are there. And I talked to him just for a few minutes. So I wanted to kick off Halloween fun this week. As I said, it's going to be a little bit different this year with a short interview with John from Tales from the Crypt from so many years ago. So let's head on over to the Spooky Empire Ultimate Horror Weekend for a little Halloween fun with John Kassir. John Kassir, voice of the infamous Cryptkeeper from the old Tales from the Crypt show, one of my favorites of all time. We're at the Spooky Empire's Ultimate Horror Weekend. John, you having fun in Orlando?
I'm having a great time in Orlando. All the fans are great, all the vendors are great. I'm just having a really good time. I get to see some of my favorite horror icons here. And what more could I ask for? It's around Halloween, so it's perfect.
Definitely, and Tales from the Crypt, something I've been watching since I was very little. Wish there was more of this sort of thing on TV today. Why do you think it's sort of stuck around for so many years as, you know, the iconic show that it has been?
Well, first of all, it's quality. I mean, produced by, industry giants like Bob Zemeckis and Richard Donner and Walter Hill and Joel Silver and David Giler. You could get all great stars in there on the show, and based on a comic book that was iconic to begin with, controversial and iconic in its day. And nowadays, Tales from the Crypt has the label of actually being an introduction to horror for so many people. I mean, most of the people that I meet in their 20s and 30s that come to see me, Tales from the Crypt was their introduction to horror, the very first introduction to horror, which is great. Kind of was for me too. When I was a kid, I collected the comic books. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, you just described me perfectly. I mean, I was, I don't know how old, 10 years old or something when Tales from the Crypt was on TV, and I definitely remember being a little scared, but also really intrigued by it. And of course, now I'm at a horror convention. So,
yeah.
Did you ever have a chance to get to Halloween Horror Nights when Cryptkeeper was there?
I did in Los Angeles the first year. We did, they opened Halloween Horror Nights. You know, they used the Cryptkeeper to become popular, and then they fired us. They didn't need us anymore. No, but actually it was a lot of fun, yeah. I had a good time there, yeah.
Definitely. I was happy to see just a couple years ago out here in Orlando, they brought him back just for 1 year, kind of just in the streets, not talking, obviously, but that was good to see. The voice of Cryptkeeper, obviously instantly recognizable. Where did that come from within you?
I went down to Kevin Yeager's studio when I was invited to audition for it, and got to see the puppet that he was working on. He was had a couple of different versions of it at that time, but I could see, they gave me the copy, and I could see that it, needed like a serious kind of, deep-rooted character, but at the same time, he was a storyteller, a host, kind of like your Rod Serling or your Alfred Hitchcock kind of guy. And then, he had rotting teeth and holes in his throat, so I gave it texture. And just basically off of seeing the puppet in the copy, as any other part that I would do as an actor, basically it's what's on the page. And having grown up with the comic books, realizing that he really loves saying this stuff, Be careful what you ask for. You may get it.
One more question for you. With Halloween approaching, what does the voice of Cryptkeeper do for Halloween night? Do you do anything special?
I like to go out incognito, as like everybody else does.
Yeah.
Putting on a costume makes you get to play something else and have a good time. And we all like to make an ass out of ourselves if we're allowed to.
You ever sneak up behind anybody and do the voice and just freak them out?
Yeah. Not so much,
right.
But it's a fun thing. I love doing events around Halloween as the Cryptkeeper because let's face it, he's like the mayor of if Elvira was the queen of Halloween, Cryptkeeper would certainly be the king.
Yeah, definitely. Great. Nice talking to you. Thank you very much. It was indeed a pleasure to talk to the man who was a voice of so many Well, probably nightmares when they were young. I definitely did watch Tales from the Crypt years ago. I recently bought the DVDs as well, and my wife and I have been watching those. And here's the fun footnote to all of this. Not only did Cryptkeeper get worked into Halloween Horror Nights for a few years, both out in Hollywood and here in Orlando, which is a nice theme park tie-in there, but John Kassir, that man right there, was the voice of Miko in Pocahontas. Wrap your head around that. Cryptkeeper, Miko, same person, yeah. So there it is, a little bit of Halloween fun for you, and more to come here in just a moment. So I'm going to talk right to the camera for this part of the show because those of you watching the video version of the show, this is where it's going to differentiate a little bit from the audio version. I have this great, about half-an-hour conversation with a man named Scott Simmons. He is the co-founder and creative director of a haunted house called ScareHouse up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I had a great chat with him because I thought it would be interesting this year to sort of reach out beyond the theme parks and talk to what essentially amounts to the only type of attraction that's out there that you can create on your own. You can't make a roller coaster, you can't make a dark ride, you can't make a theme park on your own. It takes millions of dollars to do something like that. But a haunted attraction, that's something you can do. Anybody can do that. It takes, some money, but it takes time. But you can make something that is as liked as theme park attractions are. And so I thought it'd be interesting to get sort of that independent perspective on how you could, start that. How do you create that? How does it tie in, your love of theme parks, which Scott is a big fan of theme parks, Haunted Mansion, of course, and everything really, and how does that all tie in? So it's a great interview. I'm not going to feature here on the video version of the show because it is a phone interview, and I didn't feel like putting half an hour of audio here on the video version would make much sense. So you're going to have to head on over to InsideTheMagic.net, download the audio version, show 395 of this podcast, and then you can listen to that conversation with Scott. And by the way, go to ScareHouse.com. Check that out. That's his website for his haunt. And might as well mention this, too. We got an exclusive video from inside the ScareHouse haunts. I will loop this music once again because now I'm continuing to talk. Over on InsideTheMagic.net on our YouTube channel, Scott actually ran through, or he had somebody run through with a video camera, something he's never done before just for us, showing off what his haunted attraction is. And I definitely wanted to get that mentioned here, of course, because you're probably watching this on YouTube right now. So just click through our channel, check out that video, and if you're in the Pittsburgh area, definitely check out ScareHouse. Anyway, on the website, 395 is the show number to listen to that full interview. Now we will we'll continue with this week's show. And before we get to some listener feedback here, let me put in a quick word about Lanyard Lab. If you need custom lanyards for, well, really for any purpose, whether it's promoting a business, attending a convention, you need name tags, you need ID cards, school, churches, anything like that, you can head on over to lanyardlab.com, and that is where you can customize your own lanyard. Just click anywhere that says get a quote and fill out the quick and easy quote request form. Submit all your details to us, and we'll email you back with a price quote along with a proof showing you what the lanyards will look like. All free to try. Easy as that. And then, of course, you can purchase online as well, all over, once again, at lanyardlab.com. That's LANYARDLAB.com.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky. Ricky, this is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Inside the Magic listener feedback.
Let's get through some emails here to round out this week's show. First couple of emails actually are sort of Halloween related, which is good for this week's show. First one, Jose from Arizona writes, "Hey, Ricky, first off, congrats on the upcoming 400th episode of Inside the Magic. Looking forward to another 100. On to my question. With Halloween soon, I was wondering, with the list of rides that already get a Halloween theme every year at both Disney theme parks, do you think there are any other rides that would be cool with a Halloween/scary theme? I personally would like to see a horror movie version of the Backlot Tour, maybe for month of October, Stitch's Greatest escape could be transformed back into the extraterrestrial alien encounter. Or how about a spooky version of the Jungle Cruise just for night riders? Jose, brilliant ideas. I love it. I love the idea of more Halloween overlays. Make every ride a Halloween overlay for all I would love to see. That would be fantastic. There's Space Mountain Ghost Galaxy, a lot of fun there. It's a little bit startling, but I just enjoy it. Period. Fun music, etc., etc. Haunted Mansion Holiday is, of course, fantastic. Now, here's my question: It's a Small World out of Disneyland gets the Christmas version. Why not a uber creepy Halloween version of It's a Small World where the dolls just don't move, they just stare at you, or maybe they just sort of move their heads very small, and then the music is all crazy and echoey, and it just turns into, this evil, nutty version. That would be insane. There's no way Disney would ever do that, but it would be absolutely hilarious if they did. Another one that comes to mind is the Great Movie Ride. There's such a small horror section of that attraction. It's fun for that moment. You see the skeletons and they're creepy, but then you go on to Tarzan and everything's all happy and all that again. You could definitely sort of redress a lot of those scenes, maybe hide sort of the licensed characters so you don't interfere with those licenses, and redo it into this sort of creepy Halloween attraction, or even stop the cars and let people walk through there. Those sets are so elaborate. I would love to see sort of a Halloween experience in there, and Hollywood studios in general really could receive quite the Halloween treatment. I love your suggestions, though. Alien Encounter, I, of course, would love to see that come back instead of the Stitch mess. And Jungle Cruise, perfect. Yes, definitely. There could be all kinds of things happening around the boat that you wouldn't expect in the dark. That would be so much fun. And I'm sure, really, I could go down the list of every single Disney attraction and come up with ways. The Enchanted Tiki Room, imagine that. Having, the lights go down, and you've already got the crazy, the drummers and the rain and all of that, and it gets a little bit spooky in there. You can imagine, possessed birds or something, make the fountain in the middle turn red, and it's, the possibilities are simply endless. Pirates of the Caribbean, of course, zombies, straight out of the film. You could do that, and it just goes on and on and on. So, fantastic idea. Unfortunately, I don't think too much of that is going to be happening anytime soon, but there is just a little bit of hope coming up. Next year, Limited Time Magic is the promotion, 52 weeks of different things every year in the parks, and one of them is going to be a Friday the 13th in September. And on that week, they're going to do extra special Disney Villains things over at Hollywood Studios, and I'm really hoping that's sort of opening the door to more of that kind of thing in the future, sort of testing the waters and seeing if that is something that people really enjoy. So I encourage everybody, pack that park when that happens to show Disney that we want more villains, we want more Halloween, we want more spooky at that time of year, because Christmas overload is about to explode in like a week. The first Very Merry Christmas party is November 9th, and it's just Christmas, Christmas, Christmas for the last 2 months, and I would love to see as much time, or at least some time, devoted to Halloween as well. So, Jose, great question. If anyone else out there, I don't mind keeping this conversation going even past Halloween. If anyone has any spooky ideas for attraction overlays, come up with like a clever title and some details, feel free to email those in. I would love to hear them. Next email also on the spooky topics here. Sarah writes in and says, I've heard many stories about hauntings at Disney. There are so many out there, there's no way to know if they're true or not. I live in an apartment that has a lot of things you can't explain. I do believe in an afterlife and how the spirits go to places that they died at or loved. The most told story is about the lamp in Walt's apartment, of course. A lot of people love Disney and in some way choose to spend their afterlife at Disney, perhaps. If there are hauntings at Disney and they aren't there to harm you, they are there to have a great time. So here's a question to think about. If you spent your afterlife at Disney, where would you like to be? Good question there, Sarah. Definitely an interesting one. Of course, naturally, with the Haunted Mansion being my favorite attraction, I would love to retire there. As they like to say, I would gladly, maybe join the graveyard band. That would be fun. I could, they've got sort of the guy playing the this and that, and I could join in with another instrument, and that would be cool. Or maybe hang around in the ballroom and dine and take part in that little birthday party that's going on there. That could be fun as well. But outside of the Haunted Mansion, since that's kind of the obvious answer, Tower of Terror and that kind of thing, I think it would just be fun to kind of float up and down Main Street and just kind of not necessarily scare people, but be kind of a creepy turn-of-the-century Dapper Dan, if you will. Just kind of, in and out of the stores and around the merchandise and, all of that. It'd be kind of a nice open area, great atmosphere. And then, of course, when Not So Scary rolls around and they make it kind of spooky-ish, that's when you can really have some fun with it. I don't know. Spending an afterlife at Disney, I mean, who wouldn't want that anyway? Isn't that the place where you'd want to spend all of eternity just kind of hanging around? And you imagine you don't ever have to wait in a line for a ride. You can just kind of float on in and sit down in whatever vehicle you want, maybe on top of somebody because you're a ghost, and I guess that's what ghosts can do. And I don't know. Again, possibilities are endless when it comes to that. Another great question. So thanks for sending that in. Fun little Halloween discussion there. So now, let's see, what other listener feedback do we have here? I'm going to kind of jump ahead here, skipping a few that I will save for another show. Let's go with this one. Nikki writes in and says, I just listened to your recent podcast, show 393. You mentioned how you got a paper copy of the Be Our Guest menu, and I remember a while back a listener commented about how Disney made a few grammatical French errors on the rough draft of the menu. Did Disney correct those mistakes on the paper copy of the menu? Nikki, nope. No, they didn't. I'm pretty sure many people have pointed out the error, and this is not me speaking because I don't know French. I don't know what the error is or means or anything, but it's at the top of the menu. Let me see if I can pull that up. Well, I probably should have done this in advance, but didn't plan for this question because it's been sitting there for a couple of weeks. I'm pulling up the photo that I had taken, of the Be Our Guest menu now, and at the top of the menu, and I'm just going to keep on rambling until I get there, is a French phrase that has an extra S at the end, which apparently is not supposed to be there. And it is indeed still there on the full menu, and I'm almost there, clicking on it. There it is. The phrase is l'amour vrai. I can't pronounce that. V-R-A-I-S. And apparently that S is not supposed to be there, according to people who know French. And it is on the menu. So, yeah, take that for what you will. John writes in and says, Skipper Ben is a fan of the Earl of Sandwich at Walt Disney World. So am I. And by the way, John, so am I as well. And many people are. Anyway, continuing with this email. I live in the Boston area. And this is John writing, of course. I live in the Boston area, and Earl is opening up a takeout location at the center of the Boston Common. They've already opened up a location at Boston's Logan Airport. And I recall Skipper Ben has relatives in the Boston area. Since the Common location is near a playground and skating, it might be a good place for a combined family outing and Earl fix. John, good to know. Of course, I probably should have mentioned earlier in the show that, of course, we know Earl of Sandwich is working on a location at downtown Disney out at Disneyland, and it's almost open. It seems like they've been training employees. The signs are up. The construction walls are about ready to come down. I imagine they're going to open any day now if they haven't already. Maybe I missed it this weekend. I don't know. I don't think so, though. But yeah, it should be any day now that Earl of Sandwich is finally going to open at the Disneyland Resort. When that happens, all of you out in California need to rush out, go get a holiday sandwich because they are delicious and available for a limited time only. Let's do a couple of more emails here before wrapping this up. I've got a good email here. All right, so here's the topic of running at Disney, marathons at Disney. It's not one that I talk about much because, well, really, honestly, I just don't have much interest in it. Never have had an interest in that sort of activity. So Greg writes in from Pennsylvania and says, where did it go? I have been listening to your podcast for a few years and have noticed that you get a lot of questions about the Run Disney events. And since you admit you don't have much interest in those and you do not typically report on them, and who could blame you? I wouldn't want to report on something I have no interest in. But with the marathon weekend just a few months away, I thought I would pass on some information to you that you could in turn pass on to other listeners. A new podcast I found about 2 weeks ago is all about the Run Disney events, and they give some pretty good sound tips for the races. The podcast is called the Mickey Miles Podcast, hosted by Mike Scopa and Michelle Scribner-McLean, and the description of the first episode is talking about the 5K family fun runs and full marathons and all kinds of other stuff and advice and answers to questions and guests and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, good. Greg, excellent. Thank you. Everybody out there interested in marathons and Run Disney and all of that kind of stuff. I'm not the guy to talk about it. I've never run one of them. I don't really pay attention to it. I don't really care. So go listen to their podcast. Excellent. Mickey Miles Podcast. Thank you, Greg. Let's see. Next email is from Redman, who writes, just checking in on a question a listener had about character signings on the Disney Cruise Line. I have brought items to guest services in the past, and I let them know which characters I would like to sign my item, and then they write up a note with the information along with your room number and pass the information along to the characters to sign. I've had this done with a Disney jersey, Disney Cruise Line hat, and a few prints. The characters even use different colored markers when signing. Just a note that you will most likely not receive your item back until the final night of your cruise. Sometimes during dinner or the evening show, the signed items will be left inside your room, and if not, you can always call guest services to check on them. So good to know that you can get lots of things signed by many characters very easily and not have to run around the ship with your items trying to do that as well. And let's call it a show right there. So that'll be it for your listener feedback this week.